Welcome to Gun News Review. Well, it was a short-lived effort. Amazon has blocked a free speech experiment by removing a book from its platform that contained computer code for the manufacture of 3D guns. Amazon publicly says the book was removed because it violated the company's content guidelines, but the company has not elaborated on which guidelines were violated. Amazon's content guidelines prohibit such things as pornography, offensive material like crime scene photos, illegal items, and stolen goods. But the 3D gun book of computer code does not appear to fall under any of those guideline restrictions. Some observers say the removal of the book could have far-reaching consequences in regard to free speech. A U.S. district judge in Washington state is expected to rule Monday on whether to remove an injunction on the online availability of 3D gun plans from Defense Distributed. Democratic lawmakers have found another gun-related topic to rally against. This week they spoke out against the Trump administration's plans to consider using federal funding to buy guns for teachers. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut says the proposal threatens to scuttle a bipartisan spending bill under consideration. Murphy called the plan a terrible policy idea. The outcry follows a report in the New York Times that U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is reviewing a proposal to allow school districts to use grant funding to buy guns for teachers. The fight for gun ownership rights continues in Canada. This week, the Mosaic Institute released its policy paper titled "Let's Eradicate Gun Violence by Criminalizing All Gun Possession." The piece outlines the Institute's position and recommendation on gun possession across Canada, stating that in order to address the primary cause of so-called gun violence, the country must make a strong stance and federally criminalize possession of all firearms. A graduate assistant at the University of Utah has been reassigned after her syllabus told students who conceal carry that they would have to stand in a Second Amendment zone. She wrote, "If you feel that it's somehow all appropriate to bring a gun to class, you're restricted to spending your time in class in my Second Amendment zone, a 3x3 taped square on the floor in the very back of the classroom." She went on to say concealed carry at class is absurd, antisocial, and frightening behavior. A university spokesman said the graduate assistant, who has not been identified, has apologized, received additional training, and will now have other assignments. An anti-gun group of students is making a 50-mile march toward the Smith & Wesson headquarters in Springfield, Massachusetts. The group began its effort Thursday under the banner of 50 Miles More, an organization that staged a similar march to House Speaker Paul Ryan's house in Wisconsin earlier this year to demand congressional action on gun reform. Organizers say they want Smith & Wesson to stop making weapons outlawed under the Massachusetts 2004 assault weapons ban. The organizers say they were inspired by civil rights activists who marched from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery in 1965. You're listening to Gun News Review. The mayor of St. Louis wants more gun restrictions. Mayor Lyda Krewson's call comes after the stray shot killing of a man waiting at a bus stop. Krewson, calling the shooting a huge tragedy, said, "We ought to be able to have some regulation of guns in our cities, particularly our urban areas." Krewson says she and the mayor of Kansas City plan to ask the legislature to pass restrictions that could include a big city ban on assault rifles, large ammunition magazines, and open carry. Krewson admits the state legislature has been decidedly pro-gun for some time, but she wants to lobby for gun reform in urban areas, saying she doesn't think guns in the cities are quite the same as guns in rural areas of the state. The Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries told the state's retailers who refuse to sell a gun to a person based on age that they are violating the state's non-discrimination law. The statement follows a civil rights complaint filed by 18-year-old Hannah Brumbles after Walmart refused to sell her a rifle. Her suit said the retail store discriminated against her based on age. The state sided with Brumbles, but the state's labor commission says it's now in the process of drafting legislation to allow retailers to make an age distinction when it comes to selling firearms without violating public accommodation law. Several national retailers had said they will no longer sell guns or ammunition to people under 21. Their decisions follow the Parkland, Florida high school shooting in February. A hearing to award damages to Brumpels is set for November. A Florida man charged with manslaughter in the death of a black man in a store parking lot has been denied a motion to reduce his bail. 48-year-old Michael Dredska said he shot 28-year-old Marcase Glockton in self-defense in an encounter that has revived debate over Florida's Stand Your Ground law. The Pinellas County Sheriff initially refused to charge Dredska, saying the shooting fell under the state's Stand Your Ground law. But prosecutors reviewed the evidence and decided to charge Dredska with manslaughter in the shooting over a handicapped parking lot space. County Judge Joseph Ballone ruled that the $100,000 bail for Dredska should stand, saying it's fair and reasonable since Dredska faces anywhere from 11 to 30 years in prison if convicted. And Olin has announced quarterly financial results for its Winchester division. Sales for the second quarter were $165.9 million. That compares to just over $170 million in the second quarter of last year. The company says the decrease was primarily due to lower sales to commercial customers, partially offset by higher military sales. Second quarter 2018 segment earnings were nearly $12 million, compared to $19 million in the second quarter of last year. The decrease in earnings was primarily due to higher commodity and other material costs and a less favorable product mix, partially offset by lower operating costs. You've been listening to Gun News Review, comprehensive and concise.